Be exactly what you want to be without all of the fear around you. We have to stand up together.
Welcome, everybody, to Built to Exit. Built to Exit with me, your humble host, Jason Sisneros, where we talk about your business and how to take it to the next level, to get it prepared for that ultimate day. We remember our saying here that everybody exits. How matters. And that's what we talk about. Different subjects. And those of you that are live with us on Twitter, at the J Sisneros, welcome to everybody. Those of you that are watching this on replay, on Spotify, on YouTubes, and all the other places, iHeartRadio, welcome to you. We've got a lot of new listeners coming in every week, and I want to say welcome to you. And I want to say welcome to everybody who's been supporting the show in all of its iterations over the last 4 or 5 years. So thanks for being with us and joining us. And you can join us at builttoexit.biz whenever you want to join the conversation or join us live. We love to have people live. We do about 30 minutes. What you guys see here, if you're watching this on replay, what you see here is the content that we put together for business owners. And we go through that. It's done live. And then we go into a fascinating opportunity where we all talk at the end of the show on Twitter. You all don't get to participate in that here with the replays, but you can join us live anytime. Bring your conversation, bring your questions, bring everything, your comments, whatever it is that you want to do, bring that with you live on Twitter every single Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're going to get right into it today, and the subject is Tyson versus Paul, a masterclass in business strategy. And I'm going to jump right into it, okay? Because here, what we do here is we talk about being a professional business owner, right? And there is a line. There's 95% of the companies that are out there that fail. We know that statistic. It has rarely changed since they started measuring it. And so what we're doing here, what I have done, what in my career, I became a 5%er, the 5% that lasts beyond, or that you build something into an asset that can be acquired by somebody else. We say everybody exits. How matters? Because everybody does exit. It doesn't matter what kind of exit you're going to have. One is involuntary exit. That's the kind you don't like. Like I had early in my career, 3 businesses, bam, bam, bam. All 3 of them failed like a disastrous set of dominoes. And then you have the dictated exit, which is basically you don't know what you're doing. I also had a dictated exit where I was like, okay, cool, I get to sell my first business. This is a sign of success. But the people that were buying it knew more than I did, and they kicked my ass in that sale. Probably got it for about half the price of what it was actually worth. They dragged me out along a long time period, wore me down until I said, please take this business for whatever sparingly small check you're going to give me. And then the third kind, which is what we talk about here every week, which is a custom tailored exit for you and your family, for you to be able to achieve all of the things that you want to do with your life by using your business as an asset. Right? And that takes perspective shifts. That takes perspective changes. That takes thinking through things through a different lens than the 95%, of which I was one of those members. I was one of the 95%ers that had an involuntary exit. I failed in my business. Okay? And then I started to think, oh, okay, well, I got some things together. I want to be part of the 5%. And then that was at the lower end of that 5% in that second exit, right? Because at least I was able to exit. And then the third time, the big winning change for me was in 2019 when I was able to custom tailor my exit on my exact day. So this show is about you. Remind yourself, I'm speaking to you. When we have these conversations, I am talking to the one. I started this show and have this conversation as if I'm talking to a younger version of myself, because there's somebody that's out there that's hungry for information, not just looking for a shortcut, not looking for some kind of snake oil, not looking for the newest guru's strategy. This is Business Principles 101. The things that for over over history have freed people. Since the first goat was traded for the first egg, there are some things that we know. There are some things that we know. Success leaves clues. And those are the things that we discuss week to week. And this week, we're going to be talking about Tyson versus Paul. What a spectacle. What a spectacle. But I want to start out again from that perspective change, or that perspective that business is an intellectual sport. All right, what we watched happen, the physicality, the spectacle that we watched with Tyson and Paul, right? And we're going to look through at that through the lens of business. And in business, as Keith Cunningham, the Real Rich Dad and the Rich Dad Poor Dad books, a mentor of mine for over a decade, as he said, emotions high, intellect low. And so what we're going to do is we're going to step above the fight. We're going to step above it, and we're going to look at it from a perspective of a business owner, a professional business owner, somebody who's committed to the intellectual sport of business. And so here's some ways for us to look through this. Some questions that we can ask ourselves about the fight itself before we get into some of the strategies and the techniques that we may have learned from the fight itself. Okay? So here's some questions that I was asking. Okay? Those of you that know, there was a comedian, and he used to say, he would say these jokes, and he's like, if your house has wheels on it, you might be a redneck. He was a great comedian. And so as I was writing out these questions during the fight, after the fight, this morning as I was prepping up for the show, it kind of got into a rhythm as I was asking myself these questions in the tone of that comedian asking those questions about being a redneck, right? And so how do you know if you're in the arena of a professional business owner or that you might be an amateur? Okay, let's go through some of these questions real quick. Are you rage posting about Tyson versus Paul? You might be an amateur. Does anyone care about your opinion about Tyson versus Paul? If you think so, you might be an amateur. Jeff Foxworthy, yes, thank you so much. Comments coming in live. Thank you for that help. Okay. Did you get emotionally invested in Tyson versus Paul? You might be an amateur. Now, let's flip that around, okay? Because as I was thinking, and I want to tell you real quick, again, none of this show is ever about shaming anybody, but it's a way to think through the things that we are participating in daily life, right? Not being part of the 95%. That's what we're talking about here. And I want to talk about, I have a very emotional connection to boxing, right? I sat with my grandfather, my hero in life, for every Muhammad Ali fight since I can remember, right? Since I can remember, that was connected my grandfather, and it connected my grandfather and I, and we watched amazing fights, right? Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes. We watched the Rumble in the Jungle. And my grandfather was so intense, and he would teach me how to fight, and it was a connection level with my grandfather. He loved it. I loved him. Therefore, I ended up loving boxing. And so I did have an emotional connection to the sport. There's lots of lessons. There's a lot of reasons to be connected to the sport and to the people that have invested their lives in that ring, right? And so I want to separate that and talk a little bit about the forensic breakdown, the things that make you a professional in business. And here's some questions that if you are a strategist, right? An architect, we talk about building a business to exit. That means you've got to have an architect's mindset. You have to look at it through a different lens, right? So here's some questions for you on the strategist side. Did you forensically break down the business lessons of Tyson versus Paul so that you could benefit from the experience personally? If so, you might be a strategist, okay? Did you lay the blueprint that you discovered against your own business strategies and systems to see where to apply those lessons and avoid the mistakes? You might be a strategist. Did you rise above the spectacle to observe its machinery and compare it to your mindset of what you think is possible? Did you allow it to stretch your doubt into expanding your own end game? You might be a strategist. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about it. Mike Tyson's net worth at the start of that fight was about $10 million. This is a man who earned over $1 billion. Okay, and again, remember, we're talking about the fight from a framework of business, right? And we want to lay that against how many. I've seen a lot of these lessons, throughout my career. My own career when I started, in the middle, then selling, and then having a consulting firm for all these, then building a system for business. My entire journey, there's so many great lessons about what we watched. Okay, and so Mike Tyson earned throughout his early career over $1 billion. We have a saying, if you've watched the show for very long, called walking dead. There's a lot of businesses out there right now that are taking breaths, right? That are breathing, and they look like they're open. They look like they are succeeding. They look like they are an operating business, but they're walking dead. We've walked into a lot of them in the consulting side. Okay, and what that means is that the business is already gone. You just don't know about it yet, right? The breath, the air that a business breathes is cash flow, right? And the thing that is taking that breath is a machine called a business. That's how we look at this. And we look at Tyson. He made over $1 billion. And then he was broke, severely in debt. And his wife, who has a business mindset, brought him back from the brink of absolute financial despair. And they started other businesses, and they went into movies, and they did all that stuff. So before the fight last night, Mike Tyson had a net worth of around $10 million. In one night, he doubled that. In earnings, in one night, $20 million he gets to walk away with that from that fight with. Jake Paul, $40 million. 120 million people watched that show or that fight last night on Netflix. Or tried to. We'll get into Netflix's dropping of the ball later on. But there was 120 million people watching. There was 80,000 people inside of a stadium. The Dallas Cowboys stadium. The entire floor was covered. Every seat was filled. 80,000. Over a spectacle. Over a fight, right? Over a fight. And so as you look at what was happening, and now what you have is you have a bunch of people, like, again, when we're looking at this from whether I'm an amateur or whether I'm an actual professional strategist, right? When we look at that, you see a lot of people thinking that their opinion matters. Now, I want to address that just for a second, because those of you that know me for a long time, you know that I have a hashtag that we started many years ago that says hashtag nobody cares. Okay? If you are participating in that rage posting and you're saying, oh my gosh, that was fake, that was a show, that wasn't real, that wasn't this, that wasn't that, all this other guy, great. You got pulled in as a consumer. Hi, my name is Jason Sisneros, founder and chairman of Anton J Global, a world-class business consulting company that has helped hundreds of clients and thousands of growth course students fix, scale, and successfully master their businesses. To put it simply, my team and I help people turn their businesses into machines that create cash. To better support startups and other mid-sized companies, my team and I developed a phenomenal and comprehensive digital growth course where I poured decades of business ownership and know-how into 20 hours of content. This course is not easy. It's not an easy pill, but demands real work from you to implement the blueprints that I've developed. We know that reaching financial freedom is never easy, but totally worth it. Go to growthcourse.com right now to learn more about the course and get started on your business journey today. And all I'm saying is let's set ourselves aside, rise above it, and be a strategist and look down on the great lessons that we can pull from this for our own businesses. Okay, you know that, and all I did was run it through the framework that we talk about here every single week. Okay, every single week, the same exact framework. Now, at some point, just like your own business, and if you watch the documentary, and as I did very, very closely to see how this thing came together, it was Jake Paul. Those 80,000 people that were in that stadium last night and the 120 million people that were watching online were there from an inception thought in one man's mind, Jake Paul. He said, you know what? What would happen if I was to fight Mike Tyson? That's not a sane thought. I don't care how old that guy goes. At 90 years old in a wheelchair, there is still the potential of severe violence and damage from the man called Mike Tyson. Right? It's not a sane thought. Now stop for a second and think about the business that you're in. If you were to look at it objectively, that you're going to set yourself aside here in the United States and say, you know what, I'm going to be one of the 33 million people that starts a business in this country. I'm going to be one of those people. I'm going to set myself aside. I'm going to be 10%. And not only am I going to be part of that 10%, I'm going to look into the belly of the beast in the business world, and I'm going to look at that 10%, and I'm going to read the statistics that tell me that when I get into that 10%, when I make that inception thought become reality and I get a business license and I get out there and I get into the arena, that out of that 10%, 95% of people fail. And it's a constant in and out of people. People that went bankrupt coming back into the market. People that just get another inception thought and they go into the market. I'm going to go into that 10% where 95% fail, and I'm going to be one of the 5%. You're just as crazy as Jake Paul. You're just as crazy. The possibility of what you're capable of, the mindset that it takes to be you, the one that's listening to me, is off the charts. Out of the realm of sanity for most people. So congratulations. Okay, so he sits down and he says, okay, cool. I think I want to make this fight. And then they get into it. What do we say the very first step is about with you and your business? Is assess where you are right now. Okay, you assess. First thing probably has to happen is you got to call up Mike. Hey, Mike, you want to step in the ring? Hell yeah, let's do it. Right? Let's put together some money. And by the way, there's a video, and I'm going to post this up today after this, but there's a video of Mike Tyson. There's some clues as to what was going to happen last night. There's some clues. He said, in his interview, he said, I don't have this in me anymore. I just need to pay the bills. Right? That was Mike Tyson. That was out of his mouth and his words. I don't really have this in me anymore. I just need a payday, right? I need to pay the bills. And so many people that as we're running our business, that is base level being in business. Great. You're in the show, right? You're in the arena. There is that underlying terror of every single business owner that walks the earth. I don't care how well they're doing. I don't care how well specifically they look like they're doing. There's always that underlying terror of what happens if this thing shuts down. Not helpful. It's not helpful. Okay? If I was to jump in, and which I haven't done, I didn't do, and I have no way of knowing when we talk about Jake Paul. Does he have that underlying terror? Okay? But we shut off that voice. We shut off that voice, and they did an assessment. Okay? And the assets, right? Mike Tyson's position, as they started to talk about this, Mike Tyson's position, he had legendary status, an incredible draw to his name, knockout power and experience. His challenges, okay? Age, ring rust, 20 years before he stepped in that ring. And adapting to modern boxing. He has his team that he brought together. Remember, the people that advised him on how to fight, you have to look at it. And it was another clue if you're looking at this through the business lens. He had his team had historic boxing knowledge and a proven track record, and it was very small. Now, why was it very small from a business perspective? Why would it be very small? It would give you a clue when you know that it's very small, and they were putting out a lot of the good marketing videos and et cetera, but it was because he knew he was going to get a $20 million payday, plus there's other stuff that comes along with this, but he wanted to keep his expenses low. In my opinion, that was his wife. His wife is an incredible business mind. And they said, you know what? Whatever, and that was a clue to me. When I saw that they kept that team really small, it was like, okay, he's not. I think what he's going to do is he's going to get himself in great shape. You know, somebody just like you and I, right? Oh, I got a few extra pounds. I'm going to go take that off. He's going to play the game. Those of you that don't know boxing, it is a spectacle, right? That what happens in the ring sometimes is a complete and total show. We saw the undercards that were happening, right? When you look at the undercards, Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. What a holy cow. Like, that was worth the price of admission watching that fight. That was not a spectacle. That was what boxing was meant to be, in my opinion. To watch Amanda Serrano, her eye basically laid open on her face like a warrior saying, I'm not going to quit. Right? I'm not going to quit. The mindset aspect of your business. I'm not going to quit. She got a headbutt early in the fight and her eye was laid open and bleeding into her eye. She basically was blind fighting. Katie Taylor, who is a beast, put on one of the greatest boxing exhibitions that I've seen in a very, very long time. Mario Barrios and Abel Ramos in the early cards. Okay, you see, right away comes out and he knocks down Ramos. You think it's going to be a short night. But these are Mexican fighters. The culture, remember your business, we talk about culture. The culture of Mexican fighters, as I've observed throughout my watching boxing, is that they fight. They don't talk crap to each other. They fight. And they fight to the end. And so he came back. Ramos comes back and knocks down Barrios. Barrios has got to get over that. And he's got to get back in the fight. And that fight ended in a draw. There's some spoiler alerts here, but, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Right? There's that ended in a draw. A tie, which meant Barrios kept his title. Then you have Narit Goyat and Nunes that fought. What a hilarious fight, right? Neeraj Goyat has 150 million followers online. He's from India, right? His business strategy to be a boxer, right? He was on one of the biggest, the most watched fights on the face of the planet. He was on there because what he did with his following. You look at him, he was out of shape. He had some decent skills. But he was there, and he was in a movie called RRR, 3 R's, RRR, R as in Randy, R as in Rachel, okay? Which is one of the most watched Indian movies on the face of the planet. I watched it, Emily and I watched it, it was amazing. So this entire thing, and he got in the ring and he won. The undercards added a lot of value to the fight. A lot of value to the fight. So let's get back to the starting line. We just went through Mike Tyson's assessment. Now, if you haven't assessed your business, you can very easily go to B as in boy, 2, the letter 2, X as in xylophone, system, singular.com, and take an assessment of your business. Find out where you're at. I highly suggest it. B2xsystem.com. Now, Jake Paul's starting position, his assets, his youth, his speed, his marketing prowess, and his fresh legs, right? If you watch the fight, you got to see his fresh legs. His challenges was that he had a massive experience gap. And he was trying and still trying to prove legitimacy. His team, modern training methods. He had red light therapy beds. He had the best training. He had a big, huge team of people. He knew he was getting $40 million, so he invested a little bit more into his training. Right? These are the business perspectives that I was watching as this thing was going on. Okay? Every strategy starts with a brutal, honest assessment of where you and your business stand today. Okay? And then we say, got to get into the end game. So again, I'm not in their minds, but I'm just thinking to myself, okay, if I'm them, let's think about what the end game could be, right? The proper assessment. Now let's go to the end game and let's look at this. So defining victory, how are you defining victory in your own business, in your own life, by the way, as we go through these, okay? Tyson's defining victory, a massive financial payday. Right? When your net worth at the start of the fight is $10 million and you put $20 million of cash in your pocket at the end of this, what did you do to your net worth? Massive payday at 58 years old. His legacy, he wanted to prove that age was just a number. And on the personal side of his end game, which you all have to have, right? Financial, legacy, personal, maintaining the mystique of Iron Mike and not damaging that brand. Okay, Paul's vision, financial, establishing a boxing business empire. He said it over and over and over again. He said, I want to stack cash, right? He said it over and over and over again. Legacy, legitimacy in the boxing world. Personal for him, defeating a childhood hero. These guys were friends, right? Before the fight, they're friends now. Massive respect there at the end of the fight that he showed. Okay, and then what happens in the middle? We talk about you got to assess where you're at. You've got to be crystal clear on your outcome and your end game. And then comes the strategic execution of this thing that you have to put together. Remember, just put yourself in Jake Paul's 80,000 people in a stadium because of an inception thought. 120 million people around the world watching this fight. Some of the greatest undercard fights I've seen in a really, really long time. For the end game. So now it gets into, okay, now I've got the assessment. I know what I want my end game to be. Boom, starting point. Strategic execution. Tyson's approach was to hire Rafael Cordero that brought in an aspect. He's an old school Thai fighter and coach, okay? And he brought him in small, kept the team small. But he wanted somebody that he could trust and somebody that knew the sport and knew Mike Tyson and his approach to boxing. Who do you have advising you in your journey in business? Mike Tyson is one of the most experienced fighters on the face of the planet. He knows that game inside and out. I was watching his footwork last night. I was watching his footwork in training. I was watching him do things that most modern boxers don't know how to do, right? And this is the game of boxing. He knows it inside and out. But did he say to himself, I know everything. I'm not going to try anything. Like I'm going to keep doing what I know. Okay, which got him knocked out a few times. No, he went out and found the best coach that he could possibly find. The best team that he could possibly find, and he found him in Rafael Cordero. His focus, right? His focus was leveraging his power and his experience. He took the tools that he had. Are you taking the tools in your business and applying the strength of what you have at its maximum level? Mike Tyson and everybody that I watched in all of the interviews said the last thing to go in boxing is your power. So you had to respect it. You had to respect it and his experience of knowing the fight. Training. He adapted historic methods to a modern fight. That was his strategic execution. Knew where he was, knew where he was going, and now he had to get there with the assets that he had in hand. Jake Paul's approach, he hired Theatrice Chambers from the historic and famous Kronk boxing methodology out of Detroit, Michigan. He brought him in. His focus and his assets that he built on was his speed and his youth. And his training was modern analytics, that meeting modern traditional boxing. Your exit strategy requires both the right team and disciplined execution. Okay? And so these are all the things that I was watching from above, right? Do I love Mike Tyson? Absolutely. Did I want this to not be some kind of a show or an act? Did I want him to get in and did I want to see two men lay it all out on the mat? Yeah, I did. Was I emotionally invested in it to where I cried? Or I went online and I said, this is just such a sham show. Did I go out there and try to tell everybody, oh, here's my opinion on what was that? I'm so angry. No, because that is what amateurs do. That is what people do who do not take, that are not engaged in their own journey. And they're not breaking down their own side. This is not what professionals do. Professionals take the lessons. Yes, get emotionally involved in the fight. You're in your own fight. If you're listening to the sound of my voice, you're in your own fight. And that's what matters. That's what you have control over. Those are the things that you have at your fingertips to be able to achieve things in your own life. And to spend one moment. It was just like the election that we just went through. Yes, you fight for your policies that you want. Yes, you fight for the morality that you see you want to see. Yes, you do. You do what you can from your civic duty standpoint that this is our country. But do you keep doing it? No, right? Whatever the outcome was, now we go and get back to our life. It didn't matter to me. I mean, it mattered to me deeply who won, but had the one that I didn't want to win won, I would have done just like what happened when Barack or Biden or Trump first time around. I would have done what I did, which is do what I can with what I have and say what I needed to for my civic duty. Don't get overly invested in wasting your time. I'm not, and you know when you're wasting your time and your attention, because that is what put $40 million in Jake Paul's pocket last night, $20 million in Mike Tyson's pocket. Are you a business owner that's looking to build your company into a machine that creates cash? I'm Jason Sisneros, chairman and founder of Anton J Global, a world-class business consulting company that has turned around, merged, or prepped for sale hundreds of companies just like yours. I'm best known as the architect when it comes to fixing and building companies across the globe. My experience comes from owning and exiting over 20 of my own companies successfully. It's that real-world experience that I've converted into the ultimate blueprint that has saved and grown my clients' businesses. If you're tired of getting bad advice, have bought all the books, all the coaching programs, and still aren't seeing the success that you were promised, it might be time to work with a team that has actual experience and a track record of success. Please scan the QR code or visit antonj.com to schedule your free 15-minute consultation to see if we can help you reach your outcomes. That's antonj.com, ANTONJAE.com. Was your attention, my attention, the attention of 120 million people? Good for them. Massive success. Now, I'm going to wrap it up in this episode. We talked about the assessment. If you haven't assessed where you are, please do, right? If you haven't assessed where you are, please do. It's the first step. If you don't have a clear end game, please do. It's the second step. If you need a strategy on how to connect those two with your business, we're here to help. The community is here to help, the B2X community. That's what we do. But I want to leave you with the difference makers. This is the fourth point, the difference makers, which comes down to character and mindset. The difference makers for you in your own life. Okay, the difference makers. Number one, Jake Paul, no matter what you think of him, and by the way, whatever you do think of him, if it flows over into giving him attention, he wins. Positive or negative. He wins. Is number one an audacious vision? Is your mindset of what you're capable of tethered to failure and what other people think of you, or is it tethered to the fact that God put it in your heart and put it on your mind, so therefore you correspondingly have the tools to be able to achieve your audacious outcome? What kind of a crazy maniac wakes up one day and says, I want to fight Mike Tyson? That was an audacious vision. Mike Tyson, I'm going to return to the ring. I looked it up. All right, Big George Foreman. He came back. He was like, he was the old man in the sport back in the day. I looked it up. He was 48, 10 years younger than Mike Tyson when he got back in the ring to fight. 10 years is a lot of years, right? As somebody said multiple times last night during the fight, Father Time always wins. Father Time always wins. Tyson returning at 58, right? Paul challenging a legend. Here's the lesson. Here's the takeaway. Dream bigger than your industry expects. Cross-pollination, learning, taking a look at what you do. Is it going to be is it the machine that's going to get you to where you want to go? Are you building it to exit? Are you building it to survive? If you're building it to survive, you are building it out of a sense of fear. And things change quickly in business. We see it happening all the time. Things change quickly. Things are advancing. But what doesn't change is how people buy assets that create cash. So build yours to do that. Okay? That was point A in the difference maker character traits. B, action over talk. Right? Action over talk. If you're doing a lot of talking and not a lot of action, they tell you you're out of alignment to reach your end game. Both fighters put their reputations on the line. Execution trumps ideation. Okay? C, team building. Both fighters selecting world-class corners. Have you and are you surrounding yourself with excellence? And D, and probably my favorite, unwavering, non-negotiable determination that you are going to reach your end game. This is why end game is so important. This is where I'm going to wrap this up, and then we're going to go live, to the live audience, have some discussions. But here's one of the biggest difference makers that I see, and why the end game is so important. It has to be personal. You follow any great person that you've ever seen, they had a burning desire to be successful. The how it happens follows the this must happen. This will happen, or I will die trying. I'm going to leave everything out on the court. The Michael Jordans. He used to make people up to be pissed about, right, in his games, so that his game would rise to the next level because he had an end game. He had a crystal clear end game that was non-negotiable. One of the shifts that you can make, if you take anything from this episode, from our time together, it is that you have got to connect to that thing that you will run through walls, that you're like, I don't care if I die on the way, because this is what the beating heart of humanity comes from this place. All of your advancement, how you feel, your physicality, your joy, your relationships, how healthy you become, all of these things are in direct proportion to the beating heart of what you think is possible in your own life, and making it so big and so audacious and so personal to you that there is no other option. Because guess what? 10 years of chasing the non-negotiable is going to go by anyway. 10 years of accepting mediocrity will go by anyway. 10 years of laying on your ass and making excuses and allowing the world to have kicked your ass, it's going to go by anyway. My 10 years and your 10 years, we all have the same 24 hours. It's the great equalizer is time. What you're doing with yours echoes an eternity from a famous movie. Unprecedented commitment. Does your exit strategy demand your complete and total dedication? Yes or no? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. So those three things: assessment, end game, strategic approach, and your character. Character is what you do, not what you say. And your sold out commitment to chasing something of worth in your own life. It wakes you up. This is so healthy. Mentally, spiritually, socially, physically, with your body. This is so healthy. For you to have a dream and be chasing it. It doesn't mean you're going to get there. It doesn't mean that there's a guarantee of success, but oh my God, that's part of the process. It's part of the beauty, is that you could possibly fail miserably. You think about those two men, that could have been a disaster. Now look, at the end of the day, in marketing and branding and all that other kind of stuff, they took a risk. Did the brand get better for both of them or worse? Right? There's other things. There's after action studies that you have to do. And there's a result. The result was the spectacle actually happened. The result was that there was 80,000 people in that stadium and 120 people watching online. The result was that there was some legendary fights that happened in the undercard. The result was that most people are disappointed in what happened in the ring between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. The net result was #nobody cares what you feel about what happened. Right? And that's okay. That is a wonderful place to get to, is to understand that. Nobody cares about my failures. Nobody cares about the pains. That's why you don't hear me talk about them. Right? That if you know me, we're talking about you. If you know me, we're talking about your dreams. If you know me, because what I'm going through is of no value unless it's of value. The story, the struggle, that might be of value to you. That's when we're going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about it so that I can get your sympathy. We're going to talk about it so that you can apply the lessons and overcome something, that pitfall in the street. That's why we're going to talk about it. Make your words matter. Serving other people is the reason why you're on this earth. And it's in that service where joy exists. That's where love exists. That's where accomplishments exist. It's where all of the stuff. Mike Tyson said legacy is nothing. He basically, this is the most famous man on the face of the planet. He says legacy is nothing. He said it's going to be a couple of generations. Yes, he's going to be in the history books. But he said a couple of generations, everybody that I know, including my kids, my grandkids, they're going to forget about me and my name's not going to be spoken. So what you do now is what matters. Not after you stop breathing. You want to leave some things behind? That's great. You want to do the best to move the world towards love? Great. I love that. That's going to matter. But at the end of the day, you've been given this gift of this breath right now. What are you doing with it? Are you improving yourself? Are you building this machine so that you can experience more of what life has to have in the shape and form of choices? Yes or no? I pray that you do. I pray that you do. And I'm so happy we get to spend this time together. I'm so happy that we get to talk and to be together and to be with each other's challenges and with each other's successes and with each other's wins. I'm so glad that we get to do this together. I feel honored. If I'm going to spend my time doing something, I'm going to spend it loving my wife, loving my kids, loving my friends, loving my community, and you are my community. I love kicking ass with you guys. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. That's why I show up here every weekend. So thank you to all of our loyal listeners and newcomers joining us today. If you found value in today's episode, follow us on X, right here on X, YouTube, Spotify. Don't forget to join us live every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bring a friend and be a part of the conversation. Remember, whether you're stepping into the ring or building your exit strategy, the principles remain the same. Assess honestly, vision clearly, execute relentlessly. I'm Jason Sisneros, and you've been listening to Built to Exit. Peace.